Ladies and gentlemen, you welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime news hour on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, sons and daughters of the Fako division in the crisis-stricken southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon stand up to say enough is enough. No more killings, no more destruction of properties, no more atrocities in their land and the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. Meeting in Boye, mapping out strategies on how to use their cultural values to restore peace and order in that part of the southwest region and the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. And the Cameroon Navy stepping up security along the Gulf of Guinea to step down attacks by pirates and other criminals on the high seas. We'll be getting details in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television. And in news out of the Republic of Cameroon, the president of the Central African Republic, Professor Archange Touadera, takes the commitments to step up the fight against insecurity and impunity in his country by reinforcing the judicial system. He was sworn in today. It's been 4 years and more of killings, destruction, and other atrocities being committed in the two English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon, the northwest and southwest regions. The crisis, which started as a protest of teachers and lawyers, quickly degenerated into an armed conflict, and peace has been a rare commodity, so to speak, in several parts of those two English-speaking regions that have continued witnessing gun battles between security and defense forces, pro-independence fighters, and of course killings and destruction of properties have continued in those two regions, including abduction of persons. And now some indigenes of the southwest region, notably sons and daughters of the Fako division, have stood up to say enough is enough. No more killings, no more atrocities in their land. And they were meeting in Boya, discussing strategies on how to use their cultural values to restore peace. Derijato reports on Boya.
They say they are tired of seeing their own dying every day.
We don't want to hear people dying, whether you are coming from it. It's not good. It's not good. So we, in our own way, we are trying as much as possible to participate so that our brothers and sisters should not be killed by whosoever.
Though most of them today live and work out of Fako division, but all of these members have once been here for education, reason why they have converged on Boya, one of the towns in Fako division that gave them their academic identity. And they came together for one thing, to promote who they are and pass this uniqueness down to their ideological successors.
You saw in the General Assembly one of our resource persons, and the brother came out with a chart teaching the Bakuri language, which we have to use this chart to sensitize and to educate most of our kids who are in secondary schools, high schools, and even universities.
And to Gray Ekome Mwambo, the president of the association, the roadmap has already been drawn.
We are going to create or redynamize these Fako Australian Union branches in our schools, from secondary schools to our universities. I don't want to say those associations don't exist any longer. They are there, but we need to give them a push.
And the come together of Fako All Student Veteran also witnessed the amendment of their constitution.
Pirates attacks have been recurrent in the Gulf of Guinea, and the Cameroonian Navy is now stepping up security along that area in order to curb, why not eradicate, the activities of criminals on the high seas. And of course, this follows an operation carried out by the Navy forces from member countries of the Gulf of Guinea. For me, Armstrong Sander, France in details.
Ship.
Specialized forces in full action in the course of an exercise to protect the Gulf of Guinea. Combat ready and set for the war front. The men and women in uniform showcase their might and technical know-how far into the high sea as part of their mission to protect the Gulf of Guinea from pirates as well as rescue goods and persons off the coast.
We have noticed that despite of the fact that there is a pandemic, the pirates are not sleeping. They are always continuing disturbing. It is the reason why we have made an effort this year by video conferences, by different webinars to plan the edition of 2020. And the edition of 2021 is a reality today.
A success story coming after the failure to organize the 2020 edition.
This exercise has become a tradition for the Gulf of Guinea countries, and to enroll this exercise in 2020, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, COVID-19, we couldn't enroll this exercise in 2020. But it does not prevent different pirates to perpetrate illegal activities at sea.
In a Gulf of Guinea, internationally reputed for its strategic position.
The Gulf of Guinea is a very important way for merchantship, for trades, so we must keep it very secure.
The exercise, characterized by a rapid intervention and a rescue operation, involved member countries of the Gulf of Guinea.
We have the honor to receive here in Douala the frigate from Equatorial Guinea, and at the moment that I'm speaking to you, there's a Cameroonian patrol vessel who is in Sao Tome and Principe.
The over 4 days operational exercise ended at the Douala Naval Base in the presence of Marine officers, Navy captains, the commander of the 2nd Gendarmerie Region, and the commander of the 2nd Military Region.
An information from the International Maritime Bureau indicates that the Gulf of Guinea records the highest number of pirate attacks. 130, more than 130 sailors were taken hostage in the Gulf of Guinea last year. And according to the International Maritime Bureau, there were 135 maritime kidnappings recorded in 2020 in the Gulf, and 130 of them took place in the Gulf of Guinea. This is why the Cameroonian Navy is stepping up security along that area. Now to Konsamba in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. Inhabitants are saying that the operation Keep Clean operation launched by the city mayor Ndoki Epo Frederick won't be a success if burning social issues disturbing them are not solved. According to the inhabitants, the forceful eviction plan by the city mayor is not going to work if adequate measures are not taken to ensure that it does not provoke an uprising in the town. Details with Simanjika and Gabriel.
The city mayor of Konsamba has launched a campaign to keep his town clean. According to him, for the fight to be a success, persons selling by the roadside will see their structures demolished. Unfortunately, the move of the city mayor hasn't been welcomed by the inhabitants of Konsamba, as a car which was about to be taken away by the city council police met with stiff resistance from the population. Many traders have also lost their commercial bikes as they were seized by city council officials because their bikes were wrongfully stationed along the road. We are in a central town by the roadside, and the best way to monitor our bikes was to park them close to us. We were not even warned not to park them, and we are asked to pay 14,000 francs CFA to get it. Even though the Keep Konsamba Clean campaign launched days back is not welcomed by the inhabitants, authorities of Konsamba say they will not give up but are calling on the population to collaborate for a success of the campaign.
We now take you to the Southwest Regional Chief Town once more. Derek Jato is on standby with details on water crisis in that part of the country. Inadequate potable water supply is becoming a very serious problem in several parts of the town where inhabitants do not have adequate access to potable water. Derek Jato has more.
The palace of Great Support Village in Buya subdivision is thirsty.
The palace is suffering. Then, of course, what do you say about the people who are out of the palace? They are suffering even more.
And Chief Etina Monono took us round to see how dry his palace is. This second-class traditional ruler, chief of the Great Support people, and a member of the Southwest House of Chiefs, told us that he don't remember when last the precious liquid dropped from here.
In the house, there's no water. You saw buckets all over. Great Support, Buya Town, Moliko, everywhere. There's no water for people to fetch for drinking water. Most people have to go to streams, which is unhealthy.
But every day his subject comes to him to explain why it is that difficult for a village of plus 24,000 people on the foot of this water plenty Mount Cameroon still see water as a luxury in this age.
I give a little help, but how much help can I give? Now it's even worse because we have IDPs who are packed in Buya, making the place very, very congested.
And for those in charge, if the water distribution job is more than them, they should be honest to tell the Cameroon government to look for another solution.
The way with this company now they work, if they not see enough work, make them give up, make government take another company for can help with the poor, the people of Faku and the whole of Southwest region.
And to his elite, effort must be harnessed now, not later.
I am calling on all the elites of Faku, all the elites of the Southwest to come on board. We have our able parliamentarian, the young Malumba Esembe, Senator Mbelamoki. They should liaise with all the chiefs. Madame Bifaka, who is our Vice President of the National Assembly from this area. All of us should put our voice to say that water is life, and in Buya there is no water.
And as a member of the Southwest House of Chiefs, water should be top on the agenda when the regional council swing into action.
Me, as a member of the House of Chiefs, we are going to push this sort of problem because that is why we are there to bring administration nearer the people and make sure that the people feel fine.
Great Support Village, as the name goes, is the biggest village in Buya subdivision in terms of population and the largest in terms of surface area.
Coming up, Immaculate Fogwe looks at how students can avoid ease in their quest for success, and she highlights the role or the assignments of parents, teachers, and the students themselves in the quest for success void of ears. Recently, some of the students of Kaufman High School, just here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, were edified on how they can acquire good success that is void of ears. Details in this report.
Pregnancy, drug abuse, obscene videos and violence are now very rampant in school milieus in Cameroon. The situation has even become worse with the advent of social media. All these phenomena have caused mental, emotional and physical damage in the society. I feel so bad when parents offer Android phones to teenagers. I am a mother of 4, and until my child is an opposite, I cannot offer him or her a phone. In case they have online assignments, their teachers forward it to me. I can better control my children this way. Today, many parents are so negligent about their children, reason why a lot of them go astray. Parents need to sit up. In order to address these challenges, school authorities of Government School Jos in Douala organized an educative talk. Entrepreneurs, ex-students and students of the institution were brought together for them to share their experiences. The session had as theme discipline and respect for key values of professional success. I made the children understand that at the age of 10, I was already determined that I will change the world. All they need to do is identify their potentials because it will help them obtain better opportunities. I told the children that there are no shortcuts to success. They have to be determined. The journey is rough, but I encourage them never to give up. According to the discipline master of Lycée Jos, Cum Victor, the school has put at the disposal of students guidance counselors who regularly follow them. The students at the end of the educative talk expressed gratitude and promised putting into practice all what was said.
As a result of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, the mailing service of the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reforms has been facing multiple challenges with the delivery of its services, and this problem has urged the Public Service Minister to digitalize the whole service. He was here in Cameroon's economic capital Douala earlier today for this purpose. Details in this report by Charles Sekome.
The mailing department of the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, whose function is to receive, inform and guide users as well as distribute mails and filing of documents, has been declared a digital platform as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has hampered most activities of this service. The declaration was made by the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, Joseph Le, at the Community Hall in Aqua, Douala 1 Subdivision. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, our administration went through a lot of setbacks in the past year. So for this reason, the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reforms has fixed certain objectives so as to develop and modernize its services. Furthermore, the ministry has envisaged to develop the flow of information and the process for the elaboration of documents for its users. It is therefore primordial for us to introduce a telecommunications service provider for our users. According to the minister, these new reforms were put in place due to complaints of users who can't access timely information. These reforms, which have been put in place to ease the process for users, were elaborated based on research. Therefore, our customer service will now be an online platform which will have a numeric code number and a digital innovation known as CGPS, which will be deployed in all regional delegations of public service and administrative reforms. The minister further went on to elaborate some of the new mechanisms put by the ministry to ease the flow and access of information to its users. The new numeric service number will be 1522 and will be free for the interactive exchanges between customers and our services. There will be constant information to users to keep them informed and to notify them of their requests without them having to displace themselves to come to the ministry. With all these measures put in place, the expected output will be to decongest the notification office by effectively implementing digitalization, simplification of information, and notification procedures, which is the central priority of the ministry.
Out of Cameroon, after paying homage to the founding father of the Central African Republic, Barthélemy Boganda, the country's president, Professor Archange Touadéra, has been sworn in as president of that country. And of course, Faustin Archange Touadéra was sworn in earlier today after emerging winner of the December 27, 2020 presidential election, according to results made public by the Independent Electoral Commission and confirmed by the country's highest judicial institution. Mr. Touadéra, a former mathematics professor, obtained 53.16% of the vote cast during the first round of the election, and during his inaugural speech, he committed himself, or he took the commitment to step up the fight against insecurity in his country as well as impunity. And he was sworn in today after he and his collaborators and the entire Central African people paid homage to the founding president of that country, Barthélemy Bowanda. That was yesterday, and now he has ahead of him the huge task of fighting militias, and there are many difficulties that lie ahead of the president, Faustin Archange Touadéra, and the most urgent issue is to deal with the militias, indisciplined soldiers and armed vigilante groups in the country. And he has promised to reinforce the judicial institution, the judicial system of the country, to fight against impunity and of course to work for the well-being and growth of the Central African Republic and her people. That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Another scandal is recorded in a Cameroonian couple in the United States of America. A Cameroonian lady dies after a conflict with her husband in Washington, D.C. She's said to have developed health complications after a dispute with her husband, and she gave up the ghost. And this issue brings back to the table the issue of conflicts in marriages, conflict in matrimonial homes. That's why today we are receiving a servant of God, and he's also a marriage or relationship counselor. He is the author of the book titled Avoiding Divorce and Enhancing Marital Bliss Through Effective Conflict Management in Matrimonial or in Marital Relationships. Reverend Tato Kenneth, thank you for joining me today.
My utmost pleasure, Mr. Babila. I'm happy to be with you on board today.
Right, your next part in as far as conflict management in marital or relationships is concerned. When you look at what happened recently in the United States of America, what's your analysis of the situation? What actually could have provoked the man to get into the level of dispute that led to the death of his wife?
Actually, it's actually so heart-wrenching to come to terms with the fact that another couple has gone into conflict that has led to loss of life after the scenario of Chris and Anita Kam in 2020 June. So it's so heart-wrenching to know that people have not been able to control themselves to the point that when there is conflict, it leads to this. I think at the center of conflict that escalates and alarms to the level where life is lost is lack of self-control. Yeah, because conflict is an integral part of human relationships. When two persons or more are functioning together as social beings, the tendency is that there's going to be conflict. But then, when conflicts arise and people cannot manage themselves in order to manage the conflict, it is going to escalate, and the tendency will be this sad situation, which life is lost, which we are very sad about it, and we pray that we who are left behind, we take this as a very, very big lesson.
All right, just going back to the roots, what are the causes of conflicts in matrimonial relations or marital relations?
Yeah, I think basically, as I've said, conflict is supposed to be an integral part of social relationships. The reason is that two people come together from different backgrounds, different upbringings, different physiological build-up, because a man is essentially different from the woman in various ways, and they have different temperaments, they have differences in looking at things, they have had different experiences in life. So most often they will not be able to see things from the same angle. There will be times where one will be seeing blue, the other will be seeing red,
another color.
Yeah, but this is not actually a problem in itself. Conflict, the presence of conflict, is not a key issue when it comes to marital and social relationships in general. The major issue is the management of conflict. Yeah, it is possible to mitigate, to reduce the level of conflict that can, be present in a relationship. But to say we will eradicate it 100% is not possible. Now,
the conflicts are always there, as you indicated. The conflicts will always be there.
They'll always be there.
Because people will always be thinking in one way or the other at a given time over a certain issue, and that will sometimes generate some actions that may lead to irreversible consequences, like what we are seeing today, what happened to this couple in the United States of America. But there is an issue about provoking the conflict. There's an issue about how the conflict gets to manifest itself, and sometimes there are issues of communication.
Exactly. Communication is a is a central concept when it comes to conflict management, both prevention and conflict, curative measures. Communication, because most often you must understand that you can't read the mind of someone successfully all the time. There are times you can predict and think that this person, but when you go into, when somebody expresses himself wrongly, there is tendency that conflict will arise, because if you think this cup should be here and I think it should be the other way, the way I express it to you, the way I communicate my viewpoint to you, will determine whether conflict is going to surge or not. And the way you react to me, and that is why when I'm talking about conflict, I always say reaction in social relationships matters more than the action. So if I communicate wrongly and you in turn communicate in the right way, we'll be able to sort things out. But if I communicate and your own reaction also is that violent, the tendency is that we will not be able to find common ground to bring down the conflict. So as you say, communication is actually a central point. Communication being that if you are violent in your approach, or if you are too predictive in your approach, because there are some people who function in social relationships like soothsayers. They are always wanting to read somebody's mind, while some function like archaeologists. They always want to go back to the background and resurrect issues that had been sorted long ago and supposedly classified, supposedly filed. They go back to resurrect them and bring them again to interpolate them into present context, which is not always the best approach when it comes to the management of conflict.
Maybe to break what you're saying down to a lower level, an example, like I say something, maybe I've spoken 2 words, and out of the 2 words a whole book is developed. And what I did not say is included.
Is included in what you are trying to bring forth. And most often when such people do such, it will be difficult to function only with the present. They will go and say and bring things that had been, maybe you people set and settled them long ago, some 3 years back, that you remember on the 3rd of June 2017 you said this. They bring it into the present context, and at times as you behave now, I'm sure in the next 3 years you will still do the same thing, and at the end of it all, you see the thing becomes more rumbled up than it's normally supposed to be. So I think communication, as you said, if people can learn how to address facts and not address persons during conflict, it is going to go a long way to help them in managing conflict.
All right. There are also issues, of course, of money that is always there. You're not transparent. That is another area of conflict.
I would like to classify that under selfishness, because if 2 people, for instance, have become a couple, normally there is supposed to be that level of transparency. As you said, there's supposed to be some transparency between the 2 of them. But now when someone begins to build a personal empire in the background, you buy land and keep for yourself, not for the common good of the relationship any longer. You have a secret bank account and so on and so forth. I think the natural tendency of the human beings that nobody likes to be cheated. I think not you, because me, I don't like to be cheated. When I discover that somebody is coming across as if I'm being cheated, there's resentment. It will be, in fact, it's natural that resentment will be built. So when people begin to manifest selfishness in relationships, the tendency will be that the other person will want to revenge. The person will come across with that kind of anger to face the situation. So management of finances will be a cause of conflict when there is exaggeration, there is extravagance. You spend too much, or you are not transparent, you are dishonest with finances. It is going to cause conflict, because no one in the relationship will want to be taken advantage of.
What about issues of service team? Like the Bible says the woman should submit, and then the husband should love the wife. But this submission sometimes is interpreted as some sort of subjugation, and then you become like the boss or the guy who is always dictating on the wife because she has to submit.
Yeah, that is a key issue, because in marriage there is what you call role relationship. Everyone has to understand his or her role and see to what extent you play a role efficiently and effectively, so that your wing does not leak, as they say in football. They say a leakage in your wing. What you're saying is very pertinent, Babila. There is a problem when it comes to submission. There are times, if there is no close balance between the two concepts, the concept of love and submission in marriage, there is going to be problems. Some men think the submission of their wives is a weakness for them to exploit, which is very wrong. While some women think if they submit, they will be looked upon as if they are second-class citizens. So at the end of it all, the way the man is configured to be, he doesn't want somebody who will compete with him. That's the ego of the man. I also encourage women that play with men in many other areas, but when it comes to their ego, try as much as possible not to step your bounds into their ego. That is how the man is configured to be. He wants to be the head, and it's to be so.
He was already made the head by God.
Exactly. So he wants to be recognized as such. So when you want to begin to step into his ego, there is going to be resentment from his angle, and when there is resentment, there will be trouble. Now, some people used to say, if my husband, there's some ladies, they say, if my husband loves me, I will submit, and the men say, if she submits to me, I will love her. So there is always that conflict. But I want to say, all the men, they may not be very happy with what I want to say, but the burden of that particular formula lies on the man. You have to love first, because when you look at the typology in the book of Ephesians that the Bible gives, the first person who is supposed to make a step is the man, who is supposed to love first in order to trigger the submission of the woman, because Jesus loved the church first before the church was requested to submit to him. So, but essentially, I think if everyone learns to play his role well, it's going to solve some things by default. The challenge comes in when a woman wants to be dragging, and no man would like to function with a fellow man. If you want to enjoy your husband, be his wife, and being the wife is incarnated in submission.
What can possibly push a man to the point of beating his wife, sometimes his pregnant wife, to the point of death?
That is, in fact, that is animosity. I remember one of the servants of God I respect a lot, he has said it as a rule that within his church setting, if you as a man beat up your wife, the other men are going to join to beat you up. They are going to join to beat you up. In fact, it is wrong for a man to raise his hand on his wife, whether pregnant or not pregnant. It is not a good thing to do. There are other ways you can pass across your disgruntlement. If you are not happy with one thing or the other your wife has done, you can always pass it across in another way. To say you want to raise your hand to be beating up your wife is actually, it's not the solution. It is demonstration of cowardice.
We are now talking about management, how to manage those conflicts, how to ensure that those conflicts do not produce undesired results, like what we're talking about, death. And sometimes some women have one of their eyes swollen and things like that.
Yeah. I think essentially the first of things to do when conflicts comes is self-control. When you can control yourself when something comes up, when a conflict arises, self-control is a key factor, because if you don't control yourself, your inner man can be animated by bitterness, by frustration, and you end up doing things that at the end of it all you sit and am I the one who did this? So when you control yourself when conflict has come, there are times when something comes, you can give it a little lead time. You can walk away for a while, have yourself calm down, because right there you can end up doing things that will be regrettable. Self-control is one thing that I want to prescribe, or I want to encourage as a key factor when it comes to the management of conflict. Then one of the things I also want to encourage is that when you tame your tongue, the way you speak when conflict arises, there are some people who, when there is something, they begin a conflict, something begins with their husband or their wife in the room, they want the whole quarter to hear. That's a wrong approach. In marriage counseling, we always advise that as much as possible, handle your stuff, two of you. If it goes worse, before you can look for an objective third party, because there are some people who come into the conflict just to fan it up, rather. So it is good to get an objective third party who will be able to come and not take sides. Because there are some people who, like the woman runs to her mother, the majority of the cases with that, the mother will want to come and take sides with the daughter.
Motherly instinct.
Yeah, you want to take sides with the daughter and so on. So it is better for you to get, if there must be a third party, it should be an objective third party who will come into, not to fun or to come and be biased, and at the end of it all causing, the thing to rather move further than it was supposed to move. Then when it comes to management of conflict, again, one thing we encourage people to do is that be conscious of the cost dimension of conflict management or of reconciliation. Reconciliation is costly in many instances, but it's not overpriced. I want to break down what I'm saying. There are moments that you will have an explicit cost. It may even take finances. It may take material worth for conflict to be dissolved. For instance, your wife has mismanaged $1 million. At times you think within you, is she worth $1 million? Should I get beating her because of $1 million? No. So that is the cost dimension, explicit cost. Then at another point, the cost may be implicit in terms of your self-ego. At times, climb down from that high horse. When you are down, you can easily talk things through with your spouse. And because one thing with conflict is that it begins like a spark. The spark starts, the flames, and then the wildfire. Nobody ever knows the dimension it's going to take. So that's why the best thing to do is that work very hard for it not to go further than it is now, because you may think you have an upper hand. You were on the right. And by the way, nobody is ever 100% right, or nobody shares 100% of the blame when it comes to conflict. So when you look at how to quench it at its infancy, it helps a lot. And it is not always just easy, it is always costly, implicit and explicit cost.
So in other words, it's not about I'm right or you're right, it's about quenching the conflict.
Quenching the conflict, because being right at the end of the day may end up, the damage may end up coming weighing so much on you, though you were right. Let me take, for instance, I'm wanting to take it to an extreme. Let's say the conflict that started and you were on the right, to an extent on the right, and you people ended up in a fight, and your wife speaks her her high heel, and one of your eyes is extracted with it. Your right or your being right to whatever extent will not replace the eye that has come out. So nobody ever knows the dimension that conflict is going to take. So it is always good that when it starts, do all, both of you, to kill it at its infancy.
And it is often said that prevention is better than cure. So now, preventing it from getting to the level where it will be difficult to control or repair some of the damages is good, but I think it's much more better to prevent the occurrence of conflict. So how to prevent that?
Preventing, as we've said,
the manifestation, because you will always be there.
You will always be there.
Preventing the manifestation now.
Preventing the manifestation, the first of things is that when you get married to somebody, know your spouse, or you are functioning with somebody. These things we're talking about, they even cut across relationships within a work environment. They cut across relationships within a church environment. When you get married to somebody, know your person, or you are functioning with people, know the people you're functioning with. There are some people that you can do some things with them and go scot-free. There's some in fact, you don't joke in their territory. The least thing you do, they think you must be punished for what you did. So if you know that these are the likes and dislikes of my spouse, you will want to at least compromise, because if you do this, he or she is going to be angry. So the best thing for you to do is that you avoid doing the things that will hurt the person as much as possible. Error has its place too. Now, if I know that my wife hates seeing things scattered when she comes back, she sees things are scattered everywhere, the best I can do is I try to maintain some order, if not for anything, for her sake, so that when she comes back, those hard feelings and the bitterness that should have been triggered by the scattered environment is done away with.
Right. So, know your partner, know the next person you're dealing with, and know what to do and not to do. We'll certainly have another opportunity to go deeper in this very important subject, for it is often said that the conflict in society starts from homes. Thank you so much, Reverend Tato Kenneth. You are a marriage counselor and the author of the book Avoiding Divorce and Enhancing Marital Bliss Through Effective Conflict Management in Marital Relations. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.